So it's 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. I'm on my way home from Daegu, and I figured I'd do a short video talking a little bit about my thoughts on the TaLK program and on the other programs there are to teach in Korea, the EPIK program and some of the Hagwons. And I'm kind of just chilling on the train, and I figured I'd let you guys watch the scenery as I talk about the different programs there are, the benefits that I see to them, and the benefits that I shouldn't say the benefits that I don't see to them, and the pros and cons, if you call it, the benefits I see to them, and the problems that I see with each one of the programs, and the differences in between the programs, and what I feel like is the best program to come here. I shouldn't say really what I feel like the best program to come here on, but what I feel like is the best program for me to come here on, which turned out to be the TaLK program. Other people might really like to come here under the EPIK program. Other people might really like to come here under the Hogwons or find a situation like that. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a insight into the differences between the programs and what they entail with your contracts and stuff like that. As I said, I'm on a train from Daegu to Hagwon right now, where I'm going to grab my scooter and head home. So I figured I'd give you a short video telling you about the different programs. So here we have, well, random construction and some trees. It's actually starting to get green in Korea now, which is really amazing. The yellow dust is settling in, so I sound like I've been smoking for about 40 years. But other than that, it's been a pretty good spring. The trees are coming in nicely. We just had the cherry blossoms a couple days ago. They just finished up, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Gumi has a couple roads where they actually have cherry trees along the whole sides of the roads, and they plant these just massive amounts of cherry trees, and when they come in, it's pink all the way down this road, and it's really something you just have to see to experience. It's not something I can take pictures of. I have taken pictures of it, I've tried to take pictures of it, and it just doesn't do it justice. With regards to the different programs, the TaLK program, you teach for 3 hours a day. Your requirement is 15 hours a week, and you're usually required to be at school for roughly 4 to 5 hours a day. Most schools you teach after school, so you're teaching from about 1 o'clock until roughly 3:30 or 4:30. And what they would like you to do, and what they usually require you to do, is come in, eat lunch with all the students and the teachers, and then you have about 15 to 20 minutes to gather your stuff and get everything ready, and then you teach for 3 hours. It's 3 hours of teaching, according to the TaLK program, is 3 40-minute classes. No more, no less. So it's really nice. You're really only teaching 3 40-minute classes, so it's not even really 3 hours. And then you chill out until about 4:30. If you finish at 3:30, you chill out until about 4:30. Or if you finish at 4:30, depending on if you have an hour break in there somewhere because of students' classes. And then you go home. And that's about it. You really aren't required to do anything else. They don't do too much desk warming with the TaLK program. If there is vacation, you usually get it. I've had a lot of vacation time with the last semester being winter break and stuff like that. I won't have as much vacation time with this summer semester. Going from February to August, I'm not going to have as much vacation time because they don't have vacation time as much in Korea during those months. During the winter months, from August until February, there are a few vacations, and that's actually a really pretty scene. And this is a lot of the farmland, which you don't usually see. They cover most of their farmland. Even the open stuff, like right now we're seeing a bunch of greenhouse-looking constructions, and those are all relatively new. They weren't up in the last couple weeks. But what happens with the stuff that isn't covered by those greenhouses is it's actually covered by a plastic sheeting, and then the plants grow through it, and that keeps the moisture in and keeps the plants protected, which is kind of cool. With the TaLK program, though, you're teaching very minimal. You are prohibited from teaching anything else. You're not allowed to do after school tutoring with any students for money. You're not allowed to do college tutoring with students for any money. Nothing like that. You are a TaLK scholar. That's all you're allowed to do. You get 1.5 million won a month, which is roughly about $1,300 US a month, and that is very sufficient to live in the States. I haven't had any problems living with that, even with the vacations I've taken. I've been to Taiwan, I've been to Japan for a weekend, and even with those vacations, there's never really been a huge problem with me running out of money. I've always had enough money to last me till the end of the month. I actually, this last month, had a very severe stomach problem and ended up in the hospital. And 4 days and 3 nights in the hospital, along with all the tests and everything, cost me 1.8 million won, which is around 1,600 US dollars. And that's amazing if you really think about it. And then the insurance that you get through the TaLK program reimbursed me. I ended up getting a small discount and paid 1.7 million, and then I was reimbursed 1.55 million from our insurance that we received through the TaLK program. So if you really think about it, I paid about $150 to $200 to stay in the hospital for 4 days and 3 nights, which is a great deal. I mean, even as co-pays go for a hospital, that's really good. With the EPIK program, you are required to be, it's a little bit different than the TaLK program, however, it does run along the same lines. You teach during the school day. You're required to be at the school for roughly 8 hours a day, maybe a little less, no more. It really depends on the school. It depends on where you get placed. I have a bunch of friends who are EPIK teachers, and they really love it. You honestly don't do any more work than a TaLK scholar does. Your lesson planning is roughly about the same. You teach 5 hours a day rather than 3, which isn't a huge difference. It's only 2 classes. And the thing you have to consider is you're teaching daytime classes, which means you're teaching the whole school. So if you have a large school, like is in my area, the middle school has 850 students. So the EPIK teacher only sees them once every week. And that's with her... the middle schools here have 3 grades. They roughly have grades 7, 8, and 9. And so she sees the grade 8 and 9 students 1 day a week because of the number of classes and the number of students. And then she sees the grade 7 students once every other week. And I believe they switch, so I'm not quite sure how it works, but I believe there's a different 7th grade each time she sees them, so that's why it's every other week. And if you think about it that way, you really only have to lesson plan 3 times every week, because you're only seeing the same class once every week, which means you really only have to do the lesson plan 3 times a week for each of those classes, which is kind of nice, but at the same time, you're not really going to learn the kids' names. You're not really going to learn individual properties about them with a large school. With a smaller school, you are going to learn those things. With a smaller school, you're going to have a lot better chance, but also with a smaller school, you're going to be further away from a large city center. You're going to have problems traveling. Not really problems, it's just going to take you a little bit longer. And some people really don't like that. If you're somebody who's very independent and you don't mind traveling a lot to reach other people, you don't mind hopping on a train for half an hour or hopping on a bus for 45 minutes to meet people, then that's perfect for you. You can do a smaller school, you can have a lot better experience with it. The EPIK teachers are required to be at school from early in the morning, usually around 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, until about 4:30 in the afternoon. 4:30 in the afternoon is dependent on the school. Sometimes it's 4:30, sometimes it's 5 in the afternoon. Sometimes they run 9 to 5, sometimes they run 8:30 to 4:30.
It really depends on the school. It depends on where you end up being placed. A lot of the schools are very nice about it. A lot of the schools will let you out early and will be very forgiving of you wanting to take off early or come in a little bit late, depending on when you teach your classes. EPIK teachers do tend to have to desk warm. Desk warming is when there's no school, there's no classes, but you're still required to come in and sit in the room even though there's no classes. And they do this because you get paid a lot of money. As an EPIK teacher or as a TaLK teacher, we actually get paid quite a good deal of money for the work that we do. And we really don't do that much work. As a TaLK teacher, I get paid $1.5 million, and I do not do as much work as any of the other teachers in the school. And they get paid just a touch more than I do. The EPIK teachers get paid roughly around 2 million won to 2.4 million won a month, depending on your qualifications and depending on how many schools you teach. Some people teach 2 schools, some people teach 1 school. And that's usually about the same to a little bit more than an elementary school teacher gets paid here. And you're not doing as much work. Yes, you are in the school for 8 hours a day, but you're not doing lesson planning for the same class every day for a couple hours a day. You're only doing lesson planning, maybe 3 times a day, and it's not that bad. As Hagwons go, Hagwons are a whole different story. You can have a really good Hagwon, you can have a really bad Hagwon. You really need to research your Hagwon before you decide to come to Korea. If you are coming with a Hagwon, you need to know your contract inside and out, because Hagwons are there to make money. I hate to say this, but it's very true. The only reason Hagwons exist is to make money. They're not there as an educational resource, they're there to make money off students. And what happens is it turns into a factory. They push the students through. You're required to keep all the students at the same level. You're required to follow a book, and you're required to keep moving and keep them all on the same page of the same book, doing the same activities. That's not necessarily bad for some people. If you're not a very good teacher, if you don't like thinking of your own lessons, if you don't like coming up with your own lessons, that might be the way to go for you. But you're going to need to research and find a good Hagwon. Because if you find a bad Hagwon, they're going to require you to do a lot of extra stuff. You're not going to get the extra pay, and it's going to really suck. I'm coming to a stop here, so I'm going to go ahead and walk off the train without falling over, and see if I can continue on. What my basic opinion about the Hagwons has been that they're really touch and go. If you find a great Hagwon, that's wonderful. One of the Hagwons in my town is Jungdi. It's in Chilgok-gun. It is a touch north of Daegu, and it's a smaller town. It's a factory town, but it's a great place to live. There's not many people there that speak English, but there are 2 EPIK teachers, 1 TaLK teacher, and a couple Hagwon teachers. We get along quite well. It's a very small community. There's about 6 of us that speak English, 6 foreigners. But at the same time, once you have 6 foreigners, you tend to get along with each other. You tend to meet up with each other and go out. Even if it's just for small things like dinner or whatever, you do tend to take care of each other. So that's kind of nice. I'm not in a very small town where I'm the only foreigner there, which can happen with the TaLK program. It can happen with the EPIK program. The Hagwons in the very small towns don't usually have a foreigner. So when you're in a very small town, having a foreigner is kind of a big deal. The Hagwons pay roughly 1.9 to 2.3 to 2.4 million a month, and their hours are a lot more. They do require you to do a bit more work than the EPIK teachers or the TaLK teachers have to do. most of the Hagwons I know, you're required to be at the school from roughly noon to about 7 or 8 o'clock, depending on the Hagwon. Some of the Hagwons are open as late as 9 to 10 o'clock, and you might have to stay there until 10 o'clock. Some of the Hagwons are only open until 8 o'clock, and that's what you might end up doing. So if you do have a Hagwon as a job, it really depends on what your Hagwon does and how your Hagwon does it. If you find a good Hagwon, you're going to be great. You're going to be just fine, and it's going to be a ton of fun. If you end up with a crap Hagwon, I'm sorry, but it's going to suck. So that's really dependent. This is the Hagwon train station, by the way. I figured I'd give you guys a little show of it. There's the main area. It's a very small train station, but this is the train station for one of the main military bases in Korea, so that's kind of cool. And I guess that's basically this is my scooter, but that's basically my small little talk on the differences between the three systems, the three teaching availabilities there are in Korea. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to message me in the comments. I have no problem answering questions. If I don't know, I would always ask a Korean friend of mine or another teacher who I know that's teaching that, and see if they can help me out and help me with answering your questions. So please let me know. I know a couple of my videos get viewed because I have TaLK listed as the title, and they're a bunch of just BS videos of me dancing with my students. So hopefully this is a little bit more of a serious video where people can actually get some of their questions answered, and if they have any questions, they can ask me. Hope this helped you guys out. If you have any questions, if I didn't answer any of your questions, please feel free to ask me. And I'm just repeating myself now. All right. I guess I'm out.